In the morning, we talked about smallholder farmers and how we would want them to thrive. And my picture of them thriving is that vibrant ecosystem and that environment that can help them to thrive. The people or the panelists here represent or try to mimic that particular environment. Based on the introductions, you could see and where they work, they can easily contribute to that environment. So I want us to have a conversation with them now on how do we look at the environment around smallholder farmers. I'll start first by posing a question to the person who spoke last.
Oh, okay.
Agriculture and the financial sector are usually considered as different sectors. When forming policy, people say there's a cultural policy and there's a financial policy. Agriculture in sub-Saharan Africa is a key contributor to economies. I just want to understand from your perspective and the financial service of the poor perspective, is this the right way to view these two sectors? And also, these sectors, different people are involved, different profiles, and I heard somebody mention here, we don't want to leave anyone behind. So walk the audience through that process, what your thoughts and what FSP thoughts are, and how we should be viewing, or how we can view the financial and the cattle sector.
Yes, thank you, Collins. So to the first part of your question, is agriculture disparate or different or separate from financial services? And what I would say is financial services are an enabler to agriculture, to the agricultural economy, right? Financial services play a role, part of the, I would say, the composition of services that are necessary for smallholder farmers to be successful. So obviously we have advisory services, we have agricultural extension, we have inputs, etc. But financial services helps to unlock economic opportunities. And so we, within the financial inclusion team at the foundation, especially our work in East Africa, leverages and tries to work in the real economy. That is to say, we want financial services to be in service to agriculture, in service to health, in service to education, and so on and so forth. So for us, in order for financial services to be relevant in the agricultural sector, we need to understand the constraints, the business life cycles, and so on, so that we can provide services at a timely, a relevant, and affordable manner that protects against risks, so that's insurance, but also allows farmers to take advantage of markets, right? So I see them very much as integrated. That's the short answer. Segmentation, I think you asked me about different types of actors. So financial services can be very useful in a value chain approach. We are not only looking at and thinking about the smallholder farmer, but even that agro-vet dealer, right, who is providing a service to that farmer, and so on and so forth. We can extrapolate in many ways. So financial services can come at the service of not only the farmer, but even that series of stakeholders and input actors that have to engage with the farmer, that buy from the farmer, that sell to the farmer, etc. Financial services should come in service of that whole value chain, irrespective of the commodity, irrespective of livestock or grains or so on. That is the role of financial services, and so I think we should look at it as part of the ecosystem of services that support the agricultural economy. Thanks.
In terms now of the segmentation, are there deliberate efforts to uplift certain groups, or should there be deliberate efforts to uplift certain groups?
Thank you. So The financial services team at the foundation, and I'll speak for East Africa because that's the region I really oversee and work with, we have focused on supporting women small-scale producers and women micro and small entrepreneurs, right? We're not saying that male small-scale producers should not benefit, but we know that if we design for women, men will access. Whereas if we design without gender intentionality, that women may not access. So we have worked with our women's empowerment teams to look at segmentation, and we actually have segmented women, whether they're in agriculture or MSMEs, in 4 categories. The first is excluded and marginalized. The second is excluded but high potential. The third is included but underserved. And the fourth is included and served. So initially, we are going to support and target the excluded and high potential, as well as the included and underserved. Those are the 2 middle segments for us. They're not the extremes. And that's where we will begin. That is the work that builds on the work that AgDev is doing with Hannah's team, and so on. I'll just state that we will also this year develop a strategy for excluded and marginalized. So stay tuned for that. We will not be offering them credit, that is for sure, but we would like to support the delivery of basic services in health and education, because we feel that that is a way, by supporting the delivery of those services with financial services, we can reach them in a way that's not harmful to them, since they're not in the economy per se. And we will not be targeting those who are included and served. Thanks.
We can definitely see that that's the environment being created. But Grace, what about the investments?
Thanks, Amani. That was quite comprehensive in terms of the strategy and where you're focusing as Gates. So now looking into this other side around the organizations that then work with these farmers, the ag tech innovators. Stefan, what are some of the challenges that these organizations face when they are looking for investments? I know you were in the investment session earlier this morning. We had a whole discussion around it. And also from the Bayer Foundation angle, what are some of the ways in which innovators can unlock more financing or more investment to be able to then serve more smallholder farmers? And then also, what's the trade-off between agriculture, which is an important sector, but there are also other competing sectors like health, for example. So how, what's the balance as investors into the sectors?
Is that now a whole panel on its own, or are we just okay? I'm gonna try to be quick, and I'll start on the other end because I feel that okay, this is AgriFin, it's an ecosystem, but it's focused on agriculture, and I sometimes feel like everybody's sitting in a silo and waving a collaboration flag, you know, but nobody starts drilling holes into those silos to kind of bridge the gaps in between, because that, for those organizations, almost all of them tackle multiple challenges at the same time. And Michael said it here also in the session this morning, if smallholders aren't healthy, they have an issue, you know? And then we have child labor, for example, in the cocoa value chain, or you have insurance, you know, is another. So there's not just financial inclusion, financial services, but it is so multidimensional, like poverty in general is very multidimensional. Then we're talking about access and so on. There's so many different levels. So sometimes I feel like the challenge for organizations that are trying to get investment or grants is that they need to fit those silos. So whatever you do, you better fit, I don't know, that certain form of the foundation of a former tech entrepreneur from, no, I'm not going to say names here, but no, just that was just a joke. But I'm serious. It's very difficult for, especially for startups, you know, to not lose focus and to not spend 70% of their time fundraising, because what they're really supposed to do is spend their time on getting the service that they have developed to the people that need it, hopefully together with other contributors along the value chain, to reach that goal. That's not sitting in this room. The goal is that some smallholder somewhere has access to services and more income at the end of the day, right? So that's what you want to do. You want to raise the GDP. You want to make the situation better for everyone. So that's kind of the approach. So I think what we need, it's not so much on the innovator side, it's more on the funder side, because we sit in silos, we have divisions, we're entrenched a lot of times, we have our application processes. We need to get our act together and work together and say, and that's what we're trying to do on a very, let's say, micro level at the foundation, build communities of practice. We have identified that there are, I don't know, it was just by chance, I was talking to somebody from a competing pharmaceutical company actually, and we identified that we're giving money to the same organizations, not just one, and that we have the same pipeline in health already. So we said, why do we make these people write 8 reports for the same thing? Let's not do that. And then Claire, for example, there in the audience, would write at least 2 reports less and could do more of the job that she really is supposed to do. So I don't think it's so much about the innovators being more attractive for investors. Yes, of course, that is something that you need to do, but it's also about the investors really kind of making funds available together to make it less stressful on the people who actually deliver the service. Because it's not about us, it's about them. And it's not even about them, it's about the people they serve. And that's where I think the system is a little bit broken, to be honest. So.
Thanks, Stefan. Any ideas around how investors can come together, collaborate, just to tie that up a bit?
Yeah, reach out to each other. I mean, like I said, on our direct peer level, we've already done that. We have, I think now 16 or 17 organizations under NDA. We meet on a regular basis. We have kind of a pitch club where we invite innovators to pitch in health for now, and then we invite them to co-create the process of how to fund, because you need blended finance, you need bridge grants, you need investment, you need equity, you need all of this in one room, right? Because we have also found out that us, for example, as a foundation, we can't invest because we are a German not-for-profit, super difficult in German tax legislation to invest, so we can only give grants. But we want to give grants with a certain purpose, and a lot of organizations need a bridge grant to pass the valley of death, to be investment ready, to prove their concept, and to then get actual investment. And if you sit together in a room with people under NDA, you can actually talk about the challenges, and then the entrepreneurs can also share why it's so difficult. And what we're trying to do is write a playbook about this to then disseminate it in the wider community, so not everybody has to make the same mistake, and to de-risk collaboration a little bit, because it becomes political oftentimes, and it doesn't matter. You know, we don't matter that much. It's them we should focus on, and it works if you just try, you know.
Great challenge out there to investors and funders. More collaboration is needed in the sector. So I think we sat in the direction of which the questions are flowing, so I'll move to Vinay. So Vinay, we've talked about finance for smallholder farmers, we've talked about investments, and there's this question that was actually in one of the sessions earlier on, that there's a lot of innovations in the market. Like every other day, there are new ways that ag techs and innovators are coming up with to serve farmers, but there's a challenge. Too many innovations, very little scale. So from your experience with the 1 Million Farmer platform, what are some of the lessons that you can share around how this can be scaled? And also just share a few lessons as well as plans for the platform going forward.
Thanks, Grace. And I just want to start where Stefan left. I think the issue of collaboration. I think that's very critical, but let me lay out who are the key stakeholders to achieve scale, right? One is, I would say, farmers and farmer institutions, right? Farmer producer cooperatives, SACCOs, that's one key stakeholder. All of us are serving them, right? That's the clientele. Then you have all these ag tech startups, as you said, a lot of innovations, wanting to do a lot, but maybe scale is a constraint. Then you have the government, the big player, right? National government, county governments and all that. Then you have, us, I broadly call us development partners, the bank, the foundations, the multilaterals, the bilaterals, we are all there. And then you also have the AgriFins of the world. Your civil society, you work with all. I think our learning so far from the 1 million farmer platform, especially when it comes to digital ag, there's no way you can scale unless you collaborate. And you need the ecosystem to come together, right? You're working with smallholders, so you need farmer cooperatives to be in play, because that's the only way you can reach out at one go and reach out with bundled service delivery, right? So collaboration is very, very important. That's what we've tried to do on the 1 million farmer platform. We're trying to bring together county governments to work with AgTech startups, okay? So we have now 36 county governments working with 27 AgTech startups. But I think for that collaboration to succeed, the role clarity of the different stakeholders is very important. For example, I feel that it's the government's responsibility to really invest on the public good. What's the public good? I think mobilizing farmers is a public good. Basic equipment that is required to scale up digital ag is a public good. Developing a farmer registry is a public good, right? So I think the role of the government is really to invest wherever there's a public good, and that will reduce the farmer acquisition costs for the AgTech startups. For the AgTech startups, I think what they need is, as Stefan rightly said, to not have a bias mindset. If they need to achieve scale, they have to work with government, because I think government has scale. There are issues, typical transaction costs of working with government, but the AgTech kind of startups need to get rid of that biases that we cannot work with government. Development partners like us, I think technical assistance is the key. We need to provide technical assistance to both the government, because agriculture is a devolved sector. You go at the county level, you have a lot of county governments which need support, which need capacity building, technical assistance, technical support. So technical assistance support is very, very critical. And of course, also for the AgTech startups, as he rightly said, how do they get financing? And different kinds of financing. They need grants, they need equity investment, they need credit. So different mix of products. So I think a mix of things, but collaboration is the key. Role clarity among each one of these stakeholders, and how do we work together, I think is very, very important according to me. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thanks Vinay.
Grace, from the panelists, I just think one key theme is coming up is collaboration. But I want to still look at scale. We all have, or usually have, a problem. How do we know that this innovation is going to be scalable? What can we look at? What can we consider to know that this is going in the right direction? We need to have a clear way of evaluating and thinking through innovations. We need to have standardization of metrics as well, to talk the same language. So there has to be deliberate efforts towards that. And with that in mind, I would like now to come to Hannah, because she is in charge or given the mandate to look at how do we crowd in evidence. Let me try to pose to you my thoughts on that challenge. How can we look at an innovation and even just try and see if it can scale up? And once it has reached that level of scale, is there ways, or can we start talking the same language in terms of how do we evaluate them going forward? Pretty tough questions, but I believe as I said, we have the right minds in front here. So let me just hear from Anna. Can you use this?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Collins, and thank you for the question. You know that this is an area that I care a lot about, so I think on this point, you know, we've heard a lot about scale today. I think I started the day, and we heard that from Roger, and in the remarks in the keynote, and then I think even as I attended the sessions, there was a lot of discussion around like, how do we reach more farmers, right? This idea of reaching more farmers. And the reach is just one part of the puzzle, right? Because you can reach more farmers, but in order for a solution to be sustainable, there's a lot of other factors that have to come into place. And so, and we know that these ag tech providers and even governments who are providing public sector solutions face a lot of different barriers when it comes to solutions actually being scalable and sustainable. We've undertaken a little bit of work internally to start identifying some key areas to look at that we're using to look at within our own portfolio. Because most of our funding is grant funding. We do have other instruments that we use as well. But to be really clear with our partners and for ourselves around how to start evaluating the potential scalability and sustainability. So I'll briefly walk through these 5 key areas that we're starting to use to kind of look at that path to sustainability for agricultural innovations. So the first, which is really key, is around impact or value, and really looking at the impact that a solution can have on small-scale producer outcomes, so such as productivity, profitability, as well as value in terms of how well a solution responds to demand and how well it responds to the felt needs of customers. So human-centered design approaches have become commonplace. I think that's been in discussion for a long time. But gathering user feedback is not a one-time activity. It's, farmers' needs change over time, and it's really important that we can establish mechanisms to collect feedback from farmers in a routine way and make sure that we're using the data to actually inform the product. So I think that's part of the behavior change piece that I heard folks talking about. The second dimension that we're really looking at is around delivery systems and delivery partners. And this starts to speak to the point around collaboration as well across the value chain or across the ecosystem. And really, we're starting to look at whether organizations or networks of organizations are in place and have the capacity, the connections, and the capabilities to really deliver at scale. An important part of that partnership is looking at the strength of the partnership and the governance structures that are in place among partners. And again, it's not a one-time activity. I think that's the point, is that these things evolve over time. So it's really important to be checking in with partners around ambitions, if priorities have changed, if the governance structures are appropriate going forward. The third piece is around enablers or system components, because we're not working in a vacuum, right? So looking at the readiness of the enabling environment, the policy and regulatory systems, considering infrastructure. I know everybody's very aware of this around mobile connectivity, but roads are an important piece of infrastructure if you've got this great technology, but you can't get it off the farmer to farmers, right? But also really looking at the availability of data and resources, such as farmer registries. So these public good data sets, are they in the ecosystem? Are these system components there? Or can you anticipate these barriers that will be there that maybe need to be addressed? And I could see that as an area for different partners to come on board to address different system constraints. So financial sustainability is a pretty critical dimension. And whether a solution is really targeting a public or private sector scaling pathway or a combination of the two should be articulated early on. So we need a hypothesis around that path to sustainability from the very beginning so that we can actually test that hypothesis, and in order to ensure a viable business model or public ROI, because that's what the government's going to be looking for. And lastly is, of course, technical readiness. There's different scales that can be used, but we want to test, does the solution actually work in a smallholder farmer context? And I think that's pretty obvious to everyone in this room. But really what's important is looking at the combination of these 5 and making sure we're not getting ahead of ourselves in one dimension. So not getting so far in terms of technical readiness without thinking about those system components or without thinking about that path to financial sustainability. And I have to say that when we look within our own portfolio, I hate to say that we often get 4 or 5 years down the road without having that clear vision of what is that exit? What is that path to financial sustainability? Again, because grant funding, sometimes you can focus on different parts of the challenge, but what we're emphasizing is really the importance of looking at all of these. And so we're starting to use this sort of framework within the Digital Farmer Services team to really consider the scalability and sustainability and use this information to help inform partnerships, where to use our voice when we think about our own investments, and very importantly, where and how to invest in data and evidence. And I know everyone here recognizes the importance of data. I heard that coming up in multiple discussions today. Different stakeholders need data for decision making, from farmers to SMEs to donors to policymakers. And we need information around performance, inclusivity, we need data on cost, reach, and impact. And as the sector continues to grow, building this evidence base on how digital solutions can be designed, implemented, and scaled to align with priorities of small-scale producers is really critically important. So I'll just, if I have time, briefly touch on 3 key areas, 3 initiatives that we've started to help kind of build this evidence base to help ecosystem actors make informed decisions. So one of those efforts is called DAISY, or the Digital Agricultural Innovation Services Initiative, which is going to generate a rigorous evidence base on the impact of digital services and bundled approaches. I know collecting impact data is really expensive and oftentimes unrealistic. But when we conducted a review of the literature last year, we found that the evidence base is actually very thin. We looked at over 7,000 published articles and in the gray literature, and the majority of the evidence that we have really is looking at advisory services linked to adoption practices. And so we really, I think for all of us, need to have better information around the factors that affect adoption, uptake, and what the impacts are. So we're partnering with JPAL and SIGA, and we've got members of the team here if you're interested in learning more, and running essentially a competitive research fund that will fund grants for full-scale randomized evaluations, pilot studies, rapid A/B tests, and scaling grants. So if anyone's interested in partnering on some research, we have a mechanism to do that. The first RFP closed this year, and so the first studies are going to start in 2023. And as I said, I realized that while this rigorous evidence is important, it's not always feasible or realistic or practical when we ask you to not, provide your intervention to a certain set of farmers, right, to conduct a rigorous evaluation. So flexibility and adaptability are really key to scaling, and most traditional M&E approaches are not designed to keep pace with the rapid product iteration and evolution that businesses go through as they're trying to design their solution. So that's why we're partnering with 60 Decibels and Busara to develop leaner evaluation approaches, so both qualitative and quantitative tools to really help reduce costs and make some of these tools available so that they can generate more rapid insights. And so lastly, I'll just make a quick point. I think around the room there's some one-pagers, two-pagers about this population level data initiative. So we're constantly thinking about how to provide meaningful data to the ecosystem. And we recognize that we really don't have some good sources of data around like what's happening at a population level. So a lot of organizations have information about your own users, your registered users, you've got good data there. But we don't really know what the market opportunity is, what services like the broader set of farmers are using across different value chains, different socioeconomic groups. So we're partnering again with, under the same grant that I mentioned before, with 60 Decibels and also the World Bank team, to develop an instrument and approach to really understand coverage, use, and impact of digital farmer services at a national level. And so we're piloting this, or we're planning on rolling it out in Nigeria, Kenya, and the Indian state of Bihar next year. And with the plan of actually building a sustainable system, something like Findex that the financial inclusion sector has, to provide these insights on a regular basis. So happy to answer questions about any of these later.
I'm just giving you a moment to absorb everything that I know. I have a lot of conversations with Hannah, and I'm glad to be in this space because I'm in research. I want to see evidence, and every time we have a conversation with Hannah, there's something that I can take advantage of. So I hope all of us in this room can take advantage of what she's been able to say, and even use the scalability, debunking of it, to self-reflect now and see, is my innovation going to be scalable? How can I look upon it? Now, since you have debunked scalability, there was a time that we were faced by, or smallholder farmers were faced by, the locust invasion. The pandemic was still there. I think John was coordinating around 20 partners. I am shouting out to you. So, but one organization stood out. We've been talking about collaboration. They were able to coordinate activities with the national government, with development actors. And I've always been curious, what was the secret? Can we debunk this aspect of collaboration? Because when the natural calamities, if you can call them, that were happening, we were able to come together, and there was somebody coordinating it. Although he wants to be silent, but he was at the forefront for it. So Hamisi, what made it work? What can we do as a community or as a team to ensure that level of collaboration continues to exist? Are there initiatives that are currently ongoing to maintain that? Because we know that everything that has been spoken here in terms of programs, in terms of data, FAO coordinates. We want data to come into one entity. FAO does that. How can we make it successful? I know I'm full of heavy questions, but I want you to give that a crack to see if we can all just borrow from it and go from here, and knowing that if we are able to do this, we can be able to come together and help smallholder farmers not only cope, but adapt and thrive. Because then we work together and we reach 16 million smallholder farmers across Africa. We developed from scratch a citizen reporting mechanism that was driven by necessity. But I just want to see, what is your perspective on how do we make this collaboration work?
Thank you, Collins. Actually, I was about to tell Vinay to plead with you not to continue, because you could give me question overload. And I think, let me say that, sorry, I missed the better part of this conversation in the morning for reasons I couldn't avoid. But the piece that I'm getting now seems to me to be very rich and could have just been the gist of the conversation. And I want to appreciate my colleague, panelists here for what they have said. I want to speak to three things. Then I come to the specifics of FAO, if you allow me. The first one I want to speak to is if we continue the way we are going, have we ever considered the fact that probably we are overloading the small-scale farmer with innovations? And almost at a point of confusing the small-scale farmer, because today there is this one, tomorrow there is the other one, the other day there's another one. And maybe all these are revolving around the same aspects of the enterprises that they are involved in. What does that tell you? That calls for something beyond collaboration. Because the best word I've heard is collaboration, which is okay. I love it. But I think we got to coordinate. There you now start bringing some aspects beyond collaboration. You're going to start thinking of a little bit of some law and order, a little bit of some regulation, a little bit of some enabling policy environment, a little bit of just trying to get disciplined on what we do. And that has to be one that dissects where we are going to be involved in, both horizontally and vertically. Because tell you what, if you are an innovator, you just need to learn that the cake is so big and you have an advantage at one point and your other colleague has on another point. And so we stop looking at each other as competitors, but bring all our strengths together on the table, and then we consolidate those strengths. We then go to scale. But that has to happen under a coordination. And I think I want to thank AgriFin and Mercy Corps, because I think this conversation today is one step towards coordinating the sector, bringing all the actors together. And maybe we need to clap for them, because that's not very easy. That's just not very easy to think about and do. And again, bringing also most of us here, the development partners, together so that we have this type of conversation. So this is what I'm looking at. Now, when you start talking coordination, I want to look at some aspects of it. I need us to always approach what we're doing. Innovation, the technologies that we want to bring into the farmers. Let's check the value chain, and let's take the value chain approach. If you do that, you will also realize that in every milestone point, then you all have a stake to do. And if we dissect it as a chain approach, we will be well coordinated at every sector where we make the most of the contribution. Because that will also help us to avoid some other attempt, because I am an innovator out there, to be everywhere and eventually being nowhere. If you are an innovator and you're all over the map, at the end of the day, maybe we don't feel you for that. Going forward, you then need to open your doors. And I think Vinay talked about it. I'm not sure if we really read between the lines of what he said. How do we best coordinate ourselves? Remember, when a sector has grown so well, government actually exits that sector and allows it now to manage itself, regulate itself, and grow. That's what should happen. Then what do you need in return from the government? You then have to also start demanding those services that the government needs to offer to you, including enabling policy environment. You demand it now. But you can only do that when you coordinate yourself together. You are organized together. You go then as a team. You have a voice that can be heard. So in short, therefore, with the coordination, you also will be meeting the policymakers halfway. And then your conversation will be complete in the room. So this is what I'm looking at. And I think that these type of conversations are a good step the way forward in dealing with them. You talked about maybe what FAO did in terms of the desert locust and so many more that we've done. Presently, we're involved a lot with this issue of the drought. Actually, we've pumped in almost $8 million US thanks to our partners dealing with the issues of livestock. We just lost all of over 2.6 million already presently as I'm talking, with about 4.2 million people that are really, really in danger. in this country. Actually, we're facing drought that is really unprecedented. 40 years, this has not been seen. Fifth, failure of rains. And I know that you are not, probably may not be aware, you've seen some showers here and there, but all the predictions have showed that it's gonna be underwhelming. It's not what we expect. And that's gonna be the fifth season that is going to fail. And this is just not very good news. The other bad side of it is that this is not happening only in Kenya. It is in the entire Horn of Africa if you look at it. And therefore you have an entire region of about 300 million population that is really every day under threat of one disaster after the other. And then when we had like the desert locust, I remember this was coming in on 28th of December 2019 to be exact. That's when the first swarm crossed our border, I mean with Ethiopia, and entered Kenya. And just 1 month into the control, COVID-19 came in. And then you got all manner of challenges, including travel restrictions. And to control desert locusts, you needed to physically be there, and some of this type of stuff. And I want to tell you, this is when I also saw the need for innovation, the need for technology, because we quickly managed to bring in innovators and were able to create and update an app which we call the eLocust 3M. Actually, later on, we made it eLocust 3G. And we were able to use that with scouts in the field from wherever they were, picking information, putting it in the app, and that information would be processed very quickly in our headquarters in Rome. And then we would know exactly where the swarms are and how to control, including when to go and deal with these swarms. So this really helped, and you can see that technology. But I want to tell you something about it. When we needed this technology, this I didn't tell you earlier, because you were a good partner of mine that time. We had so many people coming and saying, look, we got this technology, we got that technology, we got this technology. And this speaks to what I was telling you earlier. So what we did is, in the region, we sat all these guys together and told them, go to the room, come up with one. And they all had to share whatever they had. And then came up, this is how they came up with the eLocust 3M. Actually, after 2 months, they said, we went, sat again, and now we've improved it. It's now eLocust 3G. And said, we'll pick that and use it. Now, that's the power that you get when you come together. And so in the innovation, it's nothing like somebody takes the others. That's the power you get when you come together and put all the knowledge that we have and then design this technology. And I can tell you, you will design a very superior technology. The other point about that is we were able, Collins, to go out there to the farmers, to the villagers, to the communities with one specific technology. And under coordination with the government, it was made clear there is only one way we are picking this data, and it is the FAO technology. Nothing else. That's where coordination helps you. And I can tell you our efficiency was just beyond what I could imagine, and our effectiveness was just so good. And even if you take the Kenyan situation alone, in the Horn of Africa, we were actually facing desert locust for the first time after 70 years in this country, not compared to other countries like Sudan that are recession countries for desert locust, but we were able to control desert locust here than those other countries. And actually it all boiled down to the way we were able to coordinate ourselves. And that's a key to most of the things that we are doing in the technology. Sometimes, if you innovate a lot, you run the danger of over-innovating. And that's the truth. And sometimes I've been wondering, therefore, Collins, I think innovators need to really innovate how they are going to come together as they innovate. So we need to innovate the innovators. That's the point. When it comes to matters coordination and everything, we need to find an innovative way of bringing innovators together. Because there would not be the best of the guys that can come together anyway. but we have to find a way of bringing them together. Just staying on that path of bringing technology into the sector, agriculture sector actually, I see a trend where this is one sector which has numerous technologies coming up, so many innovations. But because we're not well coordinated, these have never been put into scale where their potentials can be felt, even by the farmers themselves. And so we've had very good conversation now in the sector, which we are now trying to put together. In the land sector, land being one of the key factors of production in this country, we supported on coming up with what we call the National Land Information Management System, which was launched by the President sometime last year. I mean, early this year actually. And that is trying to look into the tenure security and then securing the same, registering in the technology, in a particular technology, and making sure that that information is availed and also it's easy to access. On the other side, coming to the food and nutrition security, we have also come up with another platform that we call the Kenya Integrated Agriculture Information Management System, KEMIS. Now this is also another digital platform that has actually now been adopted officially in the last IGF, which is the Intergovernmental Forum, by the national and the county governments, to be the platform that we want to use in the sector to allow for farmer registration, create the space for e-voucher, and it has the ability and capability to bring in so many other modules into it, including M&D system, e-extension, mechanization. So these can be plugged in just the way they are developed. And the call now is, with that platform, you're already coordinating the sector. Because you're picking data, a lot of it, and putting it there. Then you can manipulate the data the way you want and help the decision makers to make decisions that are based on fact. And I will call on the innovators in the room, the architect guys here, that you could look into this type of platform and see what is it that you're doing that can be plugged in there. Because the good thing with this one here, it is coming when it's already a coordinated, acceptable, and really a platform that has been picked by the government itself, working together with the development partners. So we are calling upon people to also continue looking at it, because it could still be improved as we go along. So I look at those areas as some of the specifics that we've done, and many more that are there in the sector, but for now and for this purpose, I think we have so much information, a lot of innovation that come every day, but let us coordinate so that we can always get these things to scale. Let us coordinate so that we can always know what we are taking to the farmer without repeating ourselves and without giving the farmer information overload. I hope I did justice to your question.
The eyes have it. The eyes have it. Actually, I'm going to the next phase of a session where we want the audience to react to what you've heard today. And I'd like to pose a challenge now to the audience. We've heard that, yes, there is collaboration and coordination. But there's still that one question. Who's going to coordinate? So I'd like to hear suggestions from you. Who do you think is the right person to coordinate, or the right institution to coordinate? As you react, so when you're asking or reacting to what they have said, we have realized we need to collaborate. We all have different strengths, we collect data from different aspects, but for us to be able to become more effective, there's collaboration needed. But who's going to coordinate it? For the locust invasion, for the various shocks that are facing smallholder farmers, The FAO was asked to step in, and they stepped in. But now for us as innovators, who takes up that role? There's one reaction there, and then another one here, as we continue now asking the panelists and reacting to what they've said.
Thank you so much. My name is Frederick Achar from Agribora. I work with an agri-fintech company called Agribora. And thank you so much for this session. But again, trying to answer what you just asked. All these innovators, they meet somewhere. And they meet at two very key places. One, they meet at the government's place. And two, they meet when sourcing funds. Can't these meeting points be the, how do you call them? If they were in a race, then that is be the roadblock that reminds them, okay, you've come this far. Now from here, you now have to coordinate and collaborate to proceed on. So I see it from the perspective that the government has the weight or the voice, together with the development partners, have the weight and the voice to instruct coordination and collaboration. Because the startups, the innovators need the government, they need the development partners. So if that is the only thing that you ask of us, I guess the only way the only thing we have for you is to say yes and do it.
All right. I'll give Amicia a break when I let the other panelists react to that. But let's just go to
Thank you so much. My name is Sweeney Onyango from Plant Village, and thanks to all the panelist team for a wonderful session. So about coordination, I think I usually say it takes a village, and village entails everyone, be it the government, the community, the stakeholders, the service providers, or the end users. So government takes it generally as part of the coordination, but in every single step that we take, we need somebody who can act as a representative. For instance, we have the funders. There's a way they coordinate on how funds revolve around. We have the service providers who give us the knowledge, information, technology, and all those stuff. Then we have the end users. If you don't coordinate things in the ground, then you are doomed. I don't know where you are taking the service to. Then we have the people who do the scaling. So generally, I want to use a very good example of during COVID Verge, and locust happened. It was so hard for people from outside to travel to come to Africa to help us. And in collaboration between Plant Village and United FAO, it was so easy for us to coordinate between the two and make things successful. We had, after doing everything, and it was successful, and Plant Village came up with the application through funding from FAO. That is the Locust 3 map. It was still difficult for the people in the ground to use the app. Why? After doing everything, government wanted to bring in their people. It was a bit difficult because they need a representation. Everything that happens should be verified by the government, right? And again, in the ground, remember we were dealing with the ASALs, the pastoralist communities. They don't really understand anything when it comes to technology. Not all of them. But remember, most of them were Morans. So it took us time to go in the ground and find the locals, who we call the scouts, that were being chosen and trained on how to use the application, and now deployment happened. And coordination between all this, everyone, stakeholders, funders, service providers, end users, the scaling sector, it was a success. So if you don't involve everyone in their own level, even if no matter which type of coordination you are going to do, it won't be successful. So in every single step and level, there must be a coordination. Thank you.
You can have one, and then let's see how the panelists react to the roadblocks and the village idea.
Okay, thanks. Nimo Muthike from Busara Center. Just spinning off from the last question, we're talking about levels. Now, just from the presentations that we've had, the discussion that we've had from Amisi that there is a platform that is being that's being adopted by the county, looking at registration at that farmer level. Now, when I listen to World Bank, I hear about 1 million farmer platform. Even at that level, there are some silos that are still happening. If then there is the deliberate sharing of information in terms of what each organization is doing, who different organizations are funding, that means that there is going to be a deliberate push towards real change. So it's not, I liked a word that someone said, de-risking collaborations. So when we have a push from the development organizations and from the government, and there is a coordination at that level, that means that the de-risking of these partnerships is then possible. So that when we are talking about in the platform, in the session I was in, we had Kuza, we had Value for Women, and these platforms in one way or another do similar functions, but they do have what I would call competitive advantage. It could be region, it could be level of technology and so forth. But for us to come up with MOUs to actually sit down and discuss and not feel threatened, and NDAs, there has to be some de-risking of that conversation, the sharing of resources. We all seem to think our data is more valuable. Like, I think my data is more valuable than my neighbor. That's a myth. But the de-risking of that conversation can only happen when there's that deliberate and intentional push and collaboration at a higher level. Thank you.
All right. Vinay, you have been called out, so probably we can start with you. How would you react to those suggestions?
Yeah, no, I think first to start from where Agribora said, I think clearly the government has a big role to play the coordination role. And I think my brother here, Hamisi, would agree that on the locust also why FAO was able to succeed was because I think the government was in the center, FAO was in the trenches with them, but clearly it was the government which was the anchor to kind of coordinate. So I think there's no doubt that the government is really the key actor who will play the coordination role. But also I just want to state that I think in the agriculture sector, Collins, and I would say specifically in Kenya, and Hamisi will agree with me, that the coordination among development partners considered one of the best in Africa. In fact, we have a very, very strong agriculture and rural development partners group. We meet once a month. It's just that this year I happen to chair it, but we have a rotational system, and we do work very, very closely. We have a database of nearly 100 investments which are happening across all development partners. We have 23 development partners who are part of that platform. So I think definitely we are moving in the right direction. I think the locust example, in fact, you should know that Kenya has launched the agriculture sector transformation and growth strategy in 2019. Of course, FAO played a big role. The Gates Foundation played. A lot of partners played, but the key is that is one strategic document which each development partner has endorsed. In fact, it was formally endorsed by the Agriculture and the Rural Development Partners Group, and that has a very strong emphasis on the use of data and digital technology. So I think we are moving in the right direction. I think on the specific question of how does 1 million farmer platform interface with Kiamis, first of all, I think I just want to say that the 1 million farmer platform is not actually a physical platform like KMS, you know, or big data. The 1 Million Farmer platform is basically to bring together agtech startups and, you know, facilitate partnerships with them. But of course, we have the big data platform which the bank has supported. But let me tell you, the big data platform is completely integrated to KMS, and we're constantly talking to each other, and that's very much part of the overall KMS thing. And as Hamisi was saying that, you know, the KMS is like this, you know, overall, I would say, information system which the government is going to use, and the rest of the things are going to plug into it, and the big data platform is going to plug into KMS, and the people who've developed the big data platform are very much working with the KMS platform. Hamisi, do you want to add?
No, this is very clear. So I hope now you get that there is already that coordination at that level. Yeah, so there is no confusion there. We are so clear on what we are doing. And one thing I may want to add is, for us as the development partners, there is the Intergovernmental Forum that we have always taken advantage of. I'm actually going to the point of Agribora that Vinay also noted, that when you come as innovators, you go, there is the fence where you all reach. When you reach the fence, you're going to have to ask yourself, how do we cross over? And that first fence is at the government level. The other fence, it talks about maybe the donors or something like that. So whenever you reach the fence of the government, then you want to ask yourself, how do we cross over? Here is where the first level of coordination starts. Then you need to find the things like the Intergovernmental Forum. What are the counties saying? What are the national government saying? Then how then do we find ourselves here in this coordination? Because it's not like the sort of what you're saying, it's not their sort of direction. It is on us to seek that direction.
We can just take, I think, 2 more, and then just hear parting shots from the panelists.
Collins, could I just still say something? I wanted to, when we had done Desert Locust collaboration, and then World Bank actually came in, I want to talk about the ELRP project. And you know what we did? World Bank told the government clearly that we got the funding, but the technical bit of this will be led by FAO. So we sat in the room with the Vinay's funding, and we were leading the technical bit. And out of that, we created 2 critical things now for that sector. The migratory and invasive pest strategy that has been launched in this country. World Bank and FAO working together. That's the coordination we are talking about, led by the government itself. In there, we've created the Desert Locust Command Center, Information Processing Command Center, which by now, we are now looking, because it was actually designed for Desert Locust, the staff that is working there, designed by FAO, put by FAO, staff that is working there is being paid by World Bank. This is the collaboration that we are doing. And that's an example I thought you needed to know. And what I'm now looking for, if you allow me, this was designed to do Desert Locust. The government has now challenged us that can we expand on that platform to bring in other pests, you know, diseases and everything else. Now I need innovators to go there, look at it, and tell me what I can do to make sure that we serve government holistically. Thank you.
Yeah. There's a quick comment here, so but you can go.
Just a quick comment on, I think, Nemo's point around de-risking collaboration. And I just wanted to say, I think AgriFin does an amazing job of de-risking collaboration. Because if we look at everybody who's in the room today, part of de-risking collaboration is like learning together. It's around networking. It's around like creating trust. And so I just want to, since we're here for an event that you've organized, I just want to kind of highlight and call that out, because I think that's a really important role that AgriFin plays in this ecosystem, is de-risking collaboration among partners.
Thank you. I'm sure Lisa, Sieka are happy to hear the fruits of your labor. So, but let's hear a reaction from one, and then we'll probably hear parting shots from the panel, and we can close the session.
Thank you very much, Collins. I'm happy that the word collaboration is coming a lot in this conversation, because I had a speaker once say that we have to forget and get out of the dirty, murky mud of competition and adopt the blue oceans of collaboration, and that is really what we're trying to accomplish here. I agree with all who have said it takes a village, but let me bring it home. My name is Brian Nyagol from Davis and Chatliff, and I believe that a village is probably too big. Let's say it takes a family where there's a father, there's a mother, there are cousins, there are uncles. The government is our father who sets the ground rules. Our mom takes care of us. And this is where the innovations are cooked. And these are the hubs that talk to these people at the grassroots level. And I want to mention that I've seen collaboration at that level, because in this country there's something called a collective body that brings all the hubs together. That is called Association of Countrywide Innovation Hubs. That is actually collecting all the hubs in Kenya, bring them together, and have formed a body to control and to put structures in how they build on startups and innovations from the very beginning. This is where all this comes. And this is the roadblock I think that my friend from my friend was talking about. The roadblock doesn't need to be at the financing bit. It doesn't need to be at the government bit. It needs to be in the kitchen. Because I am in an innovation competition sponsored by Concert Technopolis and UNDP, and 5 startups are working on the same problem, different strategies, different energies. I can't imagine what would come out of it if these people put their energies together to build something so remarkable for the market. And I think that organizations like World Bank and FAO are like our uncles who want and aunties who want us to get good wives and husbands. They know where we need to go. They provide us with the resources. They make us good. They buy us a good wedding dress and a good suit to get those good matching relationships. And they provide it. And that's the role they play. So what I'm trying to say is that, Collins, no one needs to make the call. We all need to make the call at the stage at which we play. Our father, the government, will do that. The kitchen will do its job. Uncles and Vinay and Hamisi will ensure that we are in the best suit for the relationship. And then Masiko, who work with all these people, I don't know who they are in the family, but they actually make it sweeter for our target market. Thank you.
Thank you. Great parting shot. So I'll start with Amani. I'm giving 1 minute maximum for the key parting shot to the to our audience. What can they take home from all these conversations?
Wow, thank you. I think that a lot of the success, a lot of the future success will lie in that coordination space, just as we've been discussing. I think that is, so the innovations will continue obviously in the tech space, but I think that we need to kind of go back to some basics in regards to coordinating effectively as partners, as donors, so that we're able to bring a united front to the challenges that the farmers will be facing moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Stefan.
Yeah, maybe to kind of wrap up all the storytelling that we've heard, which I actually really like because it makes everything a little bit more vivid. One final point that we might be forgetting in the all collaboration, cooperation, coordination piece is failure. DigiFarm is a platform of startups also, not only, but also, and they fail. 80% of them go bust. That is something that you have to bear in mind when you start this type of collaboration business, right, and coordination business. And I think this is where the family piece comes in, because it's about trust. So if you are in an environment where you know that failing forward is allowed, you will fail less. And why am I saying this? Because Emmanuel told me that this is what happened with AgriFin, right? In the beginning, there was an assumption that 80% of all the organizations that were going to be part of this network were going to fail. But because this was the outset, and it said, okay, here is a bunch of money, We want you to do the magic, invent the secret sauce, and do something that nobody has ever done before, which you have, obviously. You're allowed to fail. So instead of 80%, it was less than 40% of all the initiatives failing. And that is more than 100% success. So applause for failing forward.
Thanks, Colin. I really want to end on a very, very optimistic note, and I think that optimism is well founded. I think I truly believe that Kenya has all the ingredients to be a world leader as far as leveraging data and digital technologies is concerned to transform the agriculture sector. I think we are truly on the path. If we get our act together, all the stakeholders, government, development partners, the vibrant ag tech ecosystem that we have, the evidence piece, if we get our act together, I truly believe that in 5 years from now, Kenya will be a world leader in leveraging digital technologies for transforming the agriculture sector.
Thank you. For me, I want to challenge us that the sector which is agriculture, or if you like, the food and nutrition security sector, is facing myriad of challenges today. And from where you sit, I just want you to think of yourself as an innovator, that you could just be the last generation that has some time left to do something about it. There is no time to waste, and there is no one straitjacket fit-all solution to this. Take it up yourself, take the lead, don't wait for somebody else, and that's my parting shot.
All right. I think for me, I want to end with let's keep an open mind, and we can't predict the future. I don't think we would have predicted the situation that we're in today, but going back to where we started with the food crisis, the conflict that we're facing. And so to me, this means that we need to keep an open mind and keep learning and keep iterating. There's urgency behind that. So to innovate, continue innovating, let's learn from what we're doing, and hopefully, develop solutions that can actually, allow smallholder farmers to adapt today and to be resilient and, what's the word down there? Thrive in the future.
I know I have been handed the mic, but I have no parting shot. I would like somebody else to drop the mic. I'd like to invite Sieka to come and now give the final parting shot for all of us. And if I can use the analogy, drop the mic.
Okay, you made me walk a long way. Thank you panelists for this great conversation. Feel free to sit there or get back to your seats. Is everyone energized? Yeah. I think that was a great discussion. Give them a round of applause, please. I believe we got very caught up in this coordination, collaboration question, and I think it's an amazing question. Mwambeki, who's in economist there, will ask you, what about the free market? I mean, do we let competitive forces, and do we lose something in not allowing competitive forces to reign free? But I will not continue this conversation right now. It's time for us to close. I mean, it's been an amazing day. I cannot do a better parting shot than they have already. I think that was an amazing parting shots. There was a good summary to the day, but there are a couple of people in this audience that have been very instrumental in where AgriFin is today. And I'd like our advisory board members to stand up, please. Matt, who's in the room? Evan, are you still here? Lisa, you're not the advisory board, but you are, you are AgriFin. For all intents and purposes. Have I missed anyone? I know we had a couple of people who fell sick, and COVID is still a reality amongst us. So very quickly, to the advisory board who actually listened to our sessions before we came to this great event. They gave us feedback, gave us different perspectives, and they also participated as speakers in many of the sessions. I'd love you guys to just share maybe one closing remark in terms of how the day went and what are some of the insights that you got from the day. So I'll start here.
So Siaka primed us that we were going to be put on the spot, and I was thinking, wow, 6th annual learning event. I was trying to cast my mind back to the first annual learning event that we had, and I didn't do a very good job. 2016 seems such a long time ago, but I think one of the things that stood out to me that was really encouraging today was just seeing the depth of the market that's evolved. It's representative a little bit of just the number of people in the room and the variety of stakeholders here. But at the solution level, we've seen this emergence of a B2B market, of an enabling set of solutions that are really starting to help solve some of those irretractable problems for the service providers who are doing the really hard work of dealing directly with the farmers. So that was an interesting thing for me to reflect on. And yep, credit to Siaka and team for all the work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to the AgriFin team. It's been glorious to be here as a participant in your event. I'm very very happy about the level of discussion today, and just kind of leveraging what Matt said. I think one thing that I see on the stage and have talked about today that's exciting to me is about data, and that you've got so many players coming together and building solid infrastructure, and including the government and including development players and including the innovation sector. What I heard in the gender team today, I was kind of surprised nobody talked about women on the panel. Ladies and gentlemen, but in the gender panel, data came up over and over that actors who are trying to serve women are blind. They don't have the data that they've got for men. We're making great strides forward, and so you had the bank saying, "I don't have credit history." You had the women's cooperative saying, "I can't generate digital data." You had the fintech saying, "I've got data on men in the credit bureaus, but I don't have data on women." So I would say, don't leave women behind. This data is extreme. What you guys are pulling together now is so exciting, and I just want to make sure that we don't just use all of this data for policy, and for us to be able to come together once a year and say, "Gee, women have been left behind." Use that data. Let that data be used by organizations so they can reach women, so that they are not blind when we're looking at half of our market. Okay.
All right, thank you, Siaka. And wanted to pick up on that actually, and I played a role in the data session this morning, and one of the key things I think that came out of there that we all know, but is the importance and the power of data, the value of data. And one of the things that we reflected on in that session was that how important data is for also unlocking investment in the sector. But another thing that came out was that we really need to coordinate more and integrate more the different data that we have. And so I think picking up on the importance of partnerships and coordination is something that I heard throughout the day. But I wanted to sort of one key thing to end with here is that one thing I appreciate so much about this now 6th annual learning event is how it brings these people together here. And so as much as it's great to have the discussions in the formal settings, I think how we have the discussions on the margin of this, how these people come together and how we're doing the coordination amongst ourselves here, I think is so important and so powerful. So I thank so much Siaka, Lisa, the AgriFin team for making this happen, and I look forward to more of these in the future to bring us together as partnerships and in coordinating.
It's always great to be here and to have all these people from different backgrounds. And this is the value of the AFA platform, and I always appreciate being here. I think for this particular session, because this is the first one we've had in, I think, in 3 years, right? And I've been part of this for a long time. So the crisis, having post-COVID and now the food crisis, I think it is something that, to me, asks more questions. One thing I would think we also need to keep in mind, farmers use capital, whether they're financed by banks, MFIs, whatever, they use capital each season. And the more losses they get, the more capital they lose, and the more they go into poverty. So, whether or not financing is going to smallholder farmers or not is not the question. The question is how much capital are they losing year in, year out? And the more we have these crises with weather caused and others, the more we actually go further into poverty. So I think how we have to think about this thing is not just a matter of service delivery, but what are the losses that are going on? And particularly now as we're seeing crisis, and I think since I've been part of this, it's the first time we have actual some sort of crisis as far as whether climate related, so to speak, but other factors as well. So let's just keep that in mind. And I think now as I'm looking at different platforms, that is coming up to mind a lot. But also, I think also, as we talk about the smallholder, to me, what I've seen, and even as I was preparing for this, smallholder and their advancement is an outcome. And even as we talk about scaling and financing, we want that outcome to benefit. Does it mean we have to have more smallholder farmers in platforms? Is that necessarily the route to them advancing? Probably not. And as we talk about scaling, because we've been talking about this for many years, are we scaling models that are working? Are we just scaling a business? I think also, so in the spirit of collaboration, as you have said, I think it's also important. Now what I really appreciate is there are a lot of platforms. Since I've been part of this with Spruce, and we have platforms, we have many solutions. But I think other than collaboration, we need to test each other. We need to challenge each other so that we're not just scaling businesses. We're not just financing to grow a company. We're actually financing to grow models that are working for smallholder farmers. The route to market, the route that works, let's use these platforms to make those routes tell us what's working, and not necessarily having pitching sessions for people to get financing to scale a company. Because then smallholder farmers, year in, year out, they're losing more and more capital, and they're going more and more into poverty. So as we close and as we go through this phase of crises, I really hope that the next coming sessions will challenge us to look at that part of the smallholder farmers that probably are losing capital, and we can leverage all these different platform solutions and all that to really come up with models that are working, and the financing will go towards these models that are working, not necessarily towards companies. Thank you.
And thank you all, advisory board members. Lisa, hopefully you'll join the team soon. I'm just giving you a hint to what's coming up soon. These people have been advising us throughout the years, really helping us steer our direction and helping us through those dark times, those uncertain times that I mentioned, when we were trying to really figure out how we could build something that will be built to last. I don't think I need to add anything else. I think the key question is there, all of us are challenged. We have a lot of challenges. There's innovate the innovators. There's grow the right business models. There are so many challenges and so many conversations I've had throughout the day that spoke to these different challenges. And we all need to reflect on our personal conversations with each other and really see how we can meet those challenges that have been posed to us. I'd like to close the day. I think it's been a long day. We're all tired now and we should go to our various other activities. But I cannot close without thanking some people, and of course I'll start with the hotel for the service that they've given us. We thank them for being open. One of the reasons why we had to delay this ALE is because we wanted this space. This is one of the few spaces in Nairobi that can host this number of people. And we've been here many times. There's a kind of nostalgia around this place. So we really wanted to be here. COVID had hit this hotel quite hard, actually. They had closed for quite a while. So seeing them open up is a sign that there is hope. There are chances beyond crisis. And if we can build those resilient models, then even our smallholder farmers, a lot of the businesses that we're working with can also sustain themselves through these global issues. So I thank the hotel for giving us the service. Let's give them a round of applause in absentia. I thank the team that I'm working with, the AgriFin team. It's been an amazing team. Lisa built most of this team, and we've been able to carry on that spirit. There's a lot of leadership that I saw being taken up by different members of the team, someone who was coordinating the registrations, coordinating the sessions, coordinating the invitations. Many of you who flew in, you got your invites supported by someone else in the team. So everyone in the team has done a special job. And this has been an amazing ALE. We didn't think we'd pull this off. This is our first ALE after 2 years of virtual ALEs. Virtual ALEs are a little bit different. They have less logistical issues. So this was a big logistical thing to handle. So I thank the team. And most of all, I thank Collins for leading the team to create such a wonderful event for all of us. Let's give them a round of applause. I definitely want to thank all the speakers and moderators. I think all the sessions were great. I kept asking people, how was the session? Did you learn something? And everyone kept telling me, yeah, I got a lot. I have a lot of questions. This was interesting. This was exciting. This was an amazing ALE. It was interactive. And we're looking forward to the next one. Or can we have another one as soon as possible? So thanking all you speakers and moderators for giving your time to prepare your sessions and to deliver them on a wonderful day like this. Let's give them a round of applause. I'd like to thank all the donors and partners that have worked with us throughout the years. Donors especially for funding us, for believing in the vision that we have. We thank you very much. We had a great Gates contingent at this ALE, probably one of the largest contingent of Gates people. I don't know if it's because they were trying to check if we can do the job post Lisa, or they really wanted to come and learn. I'll leave that question unanswered, and probably we can talk about it later, but I really thank them for their presence here, and all the other donors, Bear as well, attending this ALE, great contributions. We had even Rabobank, a former donor, where is Albert? He was somewhere in the room, and all the people that have been in the room to really support us, and the partners that we work with on a day-to-day basis. We really honor and cherish the relationships that we have with you as partners. You won't believe it. Sometimes you walk into the door and a partner will kick you out. Say, now we've got other priorities, we have other things to do. Your technical assistance is too small, we're looking for big money, etc., etc. But for those who stick through with us, those who want to go on a learning journey and have seen the benefits of working with AgriFin, I really thank you as well for opening the door and allowing us to work with you. Round of applause for them. And last, and definitely not least, and this has been said by many people, I want to thank everyone who's in the room. Without your contributions, without the conversations we've had, we wouldn't be here. I don't know if we could coordinate all these beautiful and amazing minds. I think everyone has their role in coordinating some piece of the value chain or the ecosystem that you're working in. But without you guys, this would not be possible. We have a great challenge ahead of us to really make a difference. And that's a huge challenge. I am extremely challenged right now in terms of how do we think about scale? How do we think about scaling models that work and not just companies? Yeah, that's a question. When you're looking at reaching a target of 5 million farmers in the next 3, 4, 5 years, how do I get to those numbers? How do I pick the right models that truly make a difference for the smallholder farmer at the end of the day? It is this audience, it is us working collaboratively. It's me knowing that it's not just AgriFin that is looking at this problem. There are so many other organizations that are tackling this same issue. And if we come together in forums such as this, if we come together to continue to share our ideas, perhaps we might actually just crack that nut that has held the smallholder farmer back for so many years. So thank you all. A round of applause to yourselves.